right, Rutgers men's basketball back in action on Saturday, December 7th, noon Eastern Time at Ohio State to open Big Ten play. It's the second game for the Buckeyes, who got absolutely boat raced at Maryland on Wednesday. They were down 50-17 at the half. They lost by 24. However, this is still a huge opportunity for Rutgers for a Q1 road win. Ohio State metrics are very good. They've had a pretty good season so far. The only like-for-like opponent has been Texas A&M, who beat Ohio State by 14 at home. Rutgers, obviously, last time out, losing a very tough game to Texas A&M, had a chance to win it in the final minute. Continues to have some closing issues in their three losses. We'll get to that in a minute. But Ohio State, 29 and Ken Pom, they're top 30 in net rankings. So that makes it, it's a road game, so top 50 is all that matters. But they're in the 20s still in the net. And this is a place where Rutgers has never won. So you're at a bit of a crossroads here. You had a 1-3 road trip so far. Obviously, the Kennesaw State game was very disappointing. I do think it was important in how they came back and what they learned from that in terms of changing their style. The offense has to run through Dylan Harper, and very much so in this game. Ohio State fouls a ton. They're 296 right now in defensive in foul rate. Their opponents get into the line 39.9% of the time. Dylan Harper, you could argue, there's not a better guard at creating contact in the country than Dylan Harper. Obviously, Texas A&M really negated that. Buzz Williams, very good coach, and kept him away from the rim. It was, his least efficient offensive night, 6 of 20 from the floor. Wasn't able to get to the line much. But we saw how he can against Alabama, against Notre Dame. 35-plus points both nights. And this is a game where he needs to show some maturity in terms of controlling the game. He's going up against two very good veteran guards, and Bruce Thornton, Michi Johnson, both smaller at 6'2". Dylan Harper, 6'5", 6'6". How Rutgers chooses to defend Johnson and Thornton. I expect Jay Wilt to be heavily involved. J. Mike will get a run here and there, I'm sure, on the defensive end. And, of course, Jordan Durkak at 6'5". So him and Jay will have size on both of them. Dylan could even guard a perimeter player. Ohio State is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country so far. I mean, Micah Parrish, 6'6", Devin Royal, 6'6". Both are shooting. Well, Parrish is shooting 12 of 32 from three, 37.5%. Michi Johnson at 6'2", 19 of 49 at three, 38.8%. And then Thornton, only 29 attempts, but 15 makes, 51.7 attempts so far. And then you have Ojan Mobley, 5.8%, 24 of 43. So you have some smaller guards, right? So I think the length of Rutgers, if they can close out on threes, close out on shooters, get a hand in their face, force them to drive, but even if they get threes off, contested threes. No open threes in this game because Ohio State will bury you. But you saw in the Maryland game, when they struggle from three, when Bruce Thornton can't create on his own, they're in trouble. They were just 4 of 19 from three. Bruce Thornton just took 7 shots in the game. He only had 2 assists, 2 turnovers. And that really screwed them up from an offensive flow perspective, and they fell way behind. And they couldn't get going. They got things going more in the second half. They outscored them 42-31, but it was, the issue was way in doubt, no longer in doubt at that point. So I think Rutgers had a week now to regroup, to learn their lessons, to watch a ton of film. And I think, for me, a big takeaway from Vegas is this team is lacking a big win, but they've only had 2 opportunities for those big wins, and they were very, very close. They had a chance to win both those games in the final minute. So now it's about learning how to close out those types of games. And I think, in all 3 losses, Ace Bailey deferred to teammates and had a turnover in all 3 games down the stretch. Dylan Harper, had chances at the end of Alabama and Texas A&M, couldn't convert. But I think the most important lesson here is that when the game is on the line, the game needs to be decided by Dylan and Ace, right? And you can live with the fact that if they get good looks and they don't go in, every loss hurts. And every loss as they pile up is going to hurt even more. But that's who has to decide the game. And it's, a good problem to have in the sense of Ace being unselfish, making the proper read in terms of dishing out kickouts, right? And that's the other issue here from Vegas. I mean, Rutgers has to hit some threes. They don't have to be Ohio State, who's shooting 42.4% from behind the arc, 5th best nationally. I think it's best in the Big Ten so far. But they have to have some competency in terms of making threes. In terms of their game so far, and they were just 33.3% against Notre Dame, but they made 8 threes. It's that 3-point differential, right? You can't have a 20-point differential from 3-point range, and that's what happened against Alabama, 2 of 13. Texas A&M just 6 of 26. So they've really struggled from 3. Also, in that loss to Kennesaw State, they were 8 of 25. So their last 4 games, they haven't shot above 33%, and they were much worse in the last 2. So Zach Martini and PJ Hayes, you have to look to create for them throughout the game to open things up. The fact that Dylan, and that was part of the problem with Texas A&M, is that Rutgers couldn't hit threes, and Texas A&M was really good at clogging, driving lanes, keeping them away from the rim. You got to hit some threes to open driving lanes up, to create better spacing. And, Durkak and Jay Will are gamers. And, the emergence of Jay Will is huge for this team, and he needs to play well for them to win on the road in Ohio State. But they're not your knockdown 3 guys. And if they can hit some, which they did against, Bam and Notre Dame helps, against Notre Dame, that was huge. And that's a big reason why they won that game. But they weren't able to against Bam and A&M, and nobody else was either. So getting Hayes and Martini back into the offensive flow is key. Acuff, too. They need some production from those 3 guys. They need scoring production from those 3 guys. Some of the defensive sacrifice there, I think in this game with Ohio State, the size on the perimeter can be a real problem for Ohio State. Now, they have smaller, faster guards, but they're shooting really poorly from the foul line, just 67%. I think, Rutgers hasn't been very good defending the rim. And you can't just, have a red carpet lane open for them to get to the rim with ease. You have to contest them at the rim. But you take your chances sending them to the line. Ohio State is just 66.9% from the line, 288th nationally. They are pretty good from 2-point range, 54.6, 98%. And against Maryland, they struggled from the line, just 11 of 18, 61%. In terms of their shots at the rim, they were 11 of 18 as well. So 61%, solid. But their points per possession was just 0.808. And as I said, that 3-point differential adds up. They didn't get out on the break. Rutgers needs to impose their will in this game. I mean, Ace Bailey is going to be a matchup problem for Ohio State, and they need to get him good looks. He can't settle for 18 to 20-foot shots early in this game. If he's feeling it, that's one thing down the stretch, whereas as long as it's within the flow of the offense. But Dylan really needs to set the pace here offensively as a creator, getting Ace good shots and getting to the rim himself, getting to the foul line. Rutgers is shooting 75.0% from the foul line, 81st right now at 75.0%. They're also shooting right at 53% from 2-point range. So they got to get to the rim. They got to get to the line. And then what threes will come within the flow of the offense. Shot selection is going to be key in this game. You're playing on a place you've never won. You're playing against a team that just got their butt whooped 60 hours ago. So they're going to be motivated. They're, senior guards. This is a real test for Rutgers. It's a huge opportunity from a Q1 perspective. It's a huge opportunity to get a statement road win, because then you come home and on Tuesday you have a red-hot Penn State team that just throttled Purdue at home last night. Things are getting real here. We're in December. You did what you had to do in Vegas. You had to get the one win. You would have liked two. They fell short of that, right? And you picked up that Kennesaw State loss. Is it as bad as people want to make it out? No, it's not as bad as people want to make it out. They're in the low 80s in the net right now. But there are so many opportunities for Q1 wins ahead of them, including the next two. Because Penn State now, as of right now, they're in the top 30. So for a home game, that's a Q1 opportunity. You got to start building your resume now. And I think there was a lot to like about this team in Vegas. To take Alabama and Texas A&M to the final minute. And look what Alabama did in North Carolina this week on the road, just without one of their starters who's out for the year, destroyed them. Rutgers was super competitive in that. I mean, that was a back and forth. That was a battle. Alabama, they got all they could handle. They won. They made the plays at the end. But that type of experience, I think, if you didn't see Rutgers be competitive in those two games, I think it'd be fair to panic. But the fact that they had a chance to win both those games in the final minute, it's frustrating, it's disappointing, but it's a sign that this team is growing. And Ace and Dylan are tremendous talents, but they can't do it all alone. If J. Will can be that solid number 3 like he looked like in Vegas, huge step forward for this team. They proved they could rebound against a really good rebounding team in Texas A&M. They've shown at times they can defend really well, even though Alabama scored 95. I mean, they defended really well at times. So I think it's about consistency now, and it's about valuing possessions, right? They have to value the basketball. Overall, they've been pretty good with the ball. They have one of the lowest turnover rates in the country, 13.8%, 24th best nationally. They're getting to the line a lot. And they have to do both of those things in this game. They have to value the ball. They can't turn it over, and they got to get to the foul line. They got to hit some threes. They don't have to be lights out, but they got to create some space for their drivers by hitting some outside shots. And in terms of Ohio State offensively, if you can slow down Johnson and Thornton, if you can close out on 3-point shooters, you're going to make it hard on Ohio State. Of course, you got to rebound, but you have to contest everything. And I think this is an opportunity that Rutgers, if they can be solid on the defensive glass, they can get out and run on this team. And they can exploit them with their athleticism and their size. So, Ken Pom, listen, they have Ohio State as a 9-point, winning by 9, 80% chance of winning. I think Rutgers has a much better chance than that. But they have to play a complete game, and they have to come out strong on both ends of the floor. The way they came out against Alabama is the way they need to come out in this game. And when you put together a run like they did against Texas A&M in the second half, you got to sweep the leg. You got to, as a team, have the maturity to be able to make decisions that put you in an opportunity to win, right? And you can't have 5-minute droughts against good teams. It's going to kill you every time, and that's what happened against Texas A&M. Overall, Rutgers is playing fast, but they have to play smart. And it's going to be a huge game for this team to prove that they're taking steps forward. A loss is not fatal, but you have to perform in December. You can't have a step back with a bad loss. You don't want to go 0-2 in the Big Ten start. If you can go 2-0 these next two games, I mean, that would do wonders for the resume. It would do wonders for perception, do wonders for the confidence of this team. And I believe they can do it. It's not going to be easy. But this team has to start learning how to win together. And I think they learned a lot from Vegas. I think the week off was perfect timing. Steve Peichel can coach. And I know they did a ton of film work, and let's see what they come out with in Columbus, where Rutgers has never beaten the Buckeyes. They're due. They're due. And I'm sure that's in their heads. This group, if they want to achieve special things in March, December is where you got to make your move. And Saturday is a great opportunity to do that. I will have a reaction. I don't want to call it a rapid reaction because, it's Saturday daytime. I'm with my kids. I won't be able to film right away. I'll get it out at some point Saturday, probably nighttime. So just an FYI there. Also, I'm wearing my Scarlet Faithful hoodie from Night and Day Apparel. Scarlet Faithful, use that code, you get a discount. I have, this is a sweatshirt actually. There's also thin hoodies as well. Winter hats, check it out. But I'm very excited about the potential for this team. I think we saw how they're scratching. They're really starting to. There's flashes where you see that ceiling, and that ceiling's really high, and then you see flashes of the floor too. So it's about consistency. It's about staying focused. It's about the maturity now on the road against senior backcourt that you're physically bigger than. About a team that can multiple guys that can shoot threes. It's awareness. They need leadership on the floor, and they need a balanced attack. They need contributions from as many players as possible. Also, I think Lathan Somerville, offensively, they can get him going. Offensively, they can get him going in this game. I think that would be a real boost. And he's proven to be pretty consistent offensively. Now, defensively, he struggled. Ebola, he played pretty well against Cliff, but he's going to have to show up on the defensive end in this game. And really they have to attack the glass as a team. So, Rutgers, Ohio State, noon, FS1, if I didn't mention that already, FS1. And we'll be back here after to talk the game. Thanks so much for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet Faithful podcast.